The Ankh, African Origin of Electromagnetism, by Nur Ankh Amin, afterward by Heru Ankh Rasamaj Sapata. Relief from the Temple of Hathor at Dendera clearly shows an African civilization in possession of light bulbs, cables, and battery generators thousands of years before Volta, Edison, or even Europe itself existed. It seems that no amount of evidence is sufficient to convince racist academia to revise their established views on world history. Introduction. Due to the increasing interest in Egyptian science, the achievements of the Nile Valley civilization of Africa have been brought into focus. Depictions on tombs, pyramids, and temples provide a glimpse of the rich spiritual, cultural, and scientific wisdom of Kemet. These astonishing achievements point to the fact that Africa invented the modern world. The origin of every scientific discipline, from algebra to zoology, can be traced to the Nile Valley civilization of Africa. However, in the face of overwhelming evidence to support an African origin of science and technology, the racist scientific community continues to deny its recognition. African Egyptologists fighting to return Egypt to Africa have only been partially successful against the repressive colonial academic power that endeavors to hold our minds in slavery. The truth is, the real estate over which we must be prepared to die for a lie is far more dangerous, not only to ourselves, but to our collective consciousness. Now the war has taken a new turn on a different front, that of electronics. The most powerful tool of modern technology is electronics, and its origin has, like most things, been attributed to the European minds of the early 18th century, with damaging consequences for our youth. The discovery of electronics has been claimed as the sole domain of Europeans without a single mention of any prior knowledge in Africa. The European concept of discovery should be examined in the light of its political consequences on others, for a pattern exists which invariably results in domination and exploitation. The pattern eradicates the truth and replaces it with lies designed to promote white supremacy. This is the prime directive: to maintain control over all other civilizations by academic interference and distortion of traditional religious beliefs. The discovery of the New World by Christopher Columbus is an example of this concept in action. Its awful brutality is fully documented, and the results are evident on the native population even today, 5 centuries later. Discovery has nothing to do with original use. It is a means by which a claim can be pursued and adjudicated by colonial powers. The strategy is still used in all areas of endeavor to allowing the expropriation of wealth, whether it be land, inventions, art, or culture. Evidence is mounting which proves that the so-called discoverers of electronics, like Volta, Hertz, and Benjamin Franklin, were merely Columbuses of the electronic frontier. The evidence also points to an extensive cover-up, which became imperative because of the legal aspects governing discovery. They are today known as patent laws. Subsequent knowledge of an invention could preclude any financial gains, rendering them useless to the new profiteer. The cover-up and denial of prior electronic use in Africa allowed many inventions to be patented, creating massive profit for the inventors and this new industry. One lie begets another, and academia's role is to perpetuate these lies for future generations. However, to quote Professor Leonard Jeffries, the truth is our most powerful weapon. The parallel between the sudden rise in electronic inventions and European Egyptological excavations, grave robbery, has been suspiciously ignored. It is no coincidence that the most important discovery in electronics, the pile or battery, and Napoleon's scientific expedition to Egypt occurred almost simultaneously. Foremost in Egyptian electronics is the Ankh, and although the European Egyptologists claim that what it represents is still unknown, this is convenient ignorance. The implication of Ankh science is enormous and can only be fully understood through the spiritual awareness of the African, which allows him to appreciate and develop the technical sophistication with regard to its importance. I say Africans because the Ankh is a symbol of our unique spiritual heritage. Although physical evidence of African electronic devices have long decayed or were expropriated for later examination by the plunderers of Egypt in the 18th and 19th centuries, there still remains sufficient proof of widespread knowledge and use in Kemet prior to the Greek and Assyrian presence in the Nile Valley. This book will be of special interest to those of us who have been educated in traditional electronics and science courses and felt disenfranchised as white inventors were lauded for their contributions to a science our ancestors originated. Author's notes. It's the author's hope in writing this book that serious investigation of this subject will follow, with the aim of restoring our traditional greatness and spirituality in these original African sciences. My introduction to the Ankh came in 1986 when I, as a jeweler, was asked to make a silver Ankh for a customer. I became extremely fascinated with the symbol that seems to communicate something about my ancestral past that resonated with my very soul. Trips to the local library and questions to so-called experts all gave a limited view on the subject. With the aid of my spiritual guide, Sankaman, I investigated the Ankh for 6 years, studying every mention, drawing, or article of jewelry. I came to the realization that the Ankh was the ultimate spiritual icon. My traditional educational history was a disaster. I had difficulty understanding some concepts because my professors were more concerned to label me as incompetent in science rather than trying to educate me. The curriculum was designed to promote white supremacy and discourage deeper understanding. There was something they did not want me to know, something that seemed to arouse great fear and anxiety in them. Somehow they knew I was different, that I was not buying the great white scientist routine. I wanted the truth, a truth that I later found them incapable of supplying. Was I asking to be educated or spoon-fed? I decided to wean myself from the American educational system and pursue a deeper understanding of science through spiritual discipline and divine inspiration. Through these methods, I was taken to the heights of celestial wisdom and knowledge so vast in scope that they could not be explained in the scientific precepts or language used today. My impressions are that spiritual precepts are a higher order of the same scientific concepts, but separated by a yet unrecognized form of sensory perception. It was like trying to see with one's nose, or attempting to describe a scene based solely on one's sense of hearing. No wonder the spiritualists were frustrated. They could not express to anyone what they knew to be true from these intensely personal spiritual experiences. I have come to the conclusion that we can no longer allow ourselves to be educated in the same manner by a system based on cranial capacity while ignoring our superior spiritual faculties, simply because they cannot be expressed in language to the satisfaction of our academic slave masters. Divine inspiration is a supernatural form of communication and the ultimate goal of a truly liberated African education system, a system that I contend is still intact today. Our professors and teachers are our ancestors, alive in a realm where belief is the door and the Ankh is the key. What about credibility? Why do we need the established academic apparatus to legitimize our theories? And why do we need degrees to expound on those we present? Why? Let the truth speak for itself. They do not try to disprove the substance of what we are saying. Instead, they mount personal attacks on us to discredit us, or worse, they will use one of our own, maybe a respected black Egyptologist whose authority will be threatened by this revolutionary view of Kemet, which he, with all his scholarly acclaim, could not bring to light.